Okay, now I'll make a rather short walkthrough of the EVA report, Danmarks Evalueringsinstitut report on the international dimension in the Danish Folkeskolen, primary and lower secondary education. I'll focus very much on the summaries, the summary chapters, and the recommendations in the individual chapters. Okay, so let's get started. The report was assigned to EVA to find out certain things, okay, and what they were going to evaluate or to assess was in fact three different things, namely the formal basis for the education, the national curricular goals and their intentions, and what impact and meaning that had for teaching the international dimension in Danish schools, okay, and also to look at the individual practices of the schools, what the impact was of working with the international dimension in practical teaching, and lastly, or eventually, the students' conception and experience of teaching, what they got out of being taught the international dimension, what they got out of that. Did they in fact get anything out of it? Okay, so these were the three components examined. Okay, all right, and then you can. There was, as you can see, EVA set up an external evaluation group that was responsible for evaluation and recommendations in the report. Okay, and the evaluation group was assembled, was made up of experts in the area of the Danish Folkeskolen, so experts on that, on primary and lower secondary education, right, both from teacher educations and teacher education institutions and teachers and municipality workers, for instance, a consultant on research and development from Hillerød municipality, and also headmasters and so on and so forth, and yeah, so lots of different backgrounds, people with different backgrounds, different expertises, to come up with this. Jeg tager op til jer. Ja, du tager ind til Silvan. Jeg snider hele tiden. Hvorfor igen? Kæft. Okay. Excuse the interruption. Okay. Right. There was also a project group that consisted of EVA workers. Yeah, and there were two consultants, one to coordinate the whole thing, and also someone to take care of practicalities. It seems an evalueringsmedarbejder would be something, I think, at a lower and more practical level than, for instance, an evalueringskonsulent, an evaluation consultant. Okay, and there are 8 schools that took part. Okay, 4 from Zealand, 2 from Jutland, 1 from Funen, and 1 from Burgundy or Bornholm. Okay, yeah, yes. Right, enough technicalities for now, okay. Right, so, yeah, the schools were to interpret the international dimension in certain ways. They EVA asked them to think of the international dimension as everything right from a specific geography fact in geography teaching to big international projects, okay? And they wanted the students to come up with practical and concrete examples so as to make their considerations more specific and concrete. Okay, right. So, right. Good. Let's move on. Yeah, I think I'll just move on to the summary. Okay. The summary is very important because here you get the overall conclusion. The general conclusion is that there's a strong commitment about it, both in teacher circles but also in student circles. But there's a vast difference, and as for quality and quantity of the teaching in the international dimension, that is, offered to students. The primary reason is that at that time, 2003, the demands and goals were either not really there, or not really absent, or vaguely formulated, unclearly formulated, both at ministerial level, municipal level, and school level. So in many ways you could argue that the international dimension was a matter of enthusiastic amateurs or enthusiastic teachers at the school who took it upon themselves to really do something about it. So quite obviously what was needed was ministerial intervention. In fact, several schools asked for the ministry to intervene to come up with concrete and specific demands so as to have these imposed in municipal policies and so on and so forth, telling these schools what to do about it. Okay, right. Yeah. So without that, the what they call Gemsley, the impact, the practical realization, the practical outcome would completely was sort of random. Okay, right. So so unclarity, in fact, prevented the international dimension from being taught in many a school. Right. So it was more like it was left to very enthusiastic teachers to to teach it. Right. But yeah, okay. And another thing that was found out was that the international activities in the individual schools is rather varied. Okay. And it was also, if you look at the schools that were looked into, surveyed, that the primary focus was on understanding international cultures, okay, cultural insight and tolerance at the third world. Not so much a focus on the individual competencies of the students, okay, namely the competencies of being curious and wanting to look into things, take initiatives and communicate with international surroundings. Okay. So here a problem was quite obviously discovered. Also, the student competencies were of importance, but not really dealt with in many a school. Okay, just try to move on here. those schools that actually employed the international dimension in a serious way, or was a way that was expected perhaps at the ministerial levels, it was found that multicultural encounters could contribute to the authenticity of teaching, and both teachers and students found that this was an added benefit, meant to added learning, okay, relative to teaching that just pretends to be something, simulates an international context. Okay, with that we now move to the central recommendations of EVA, and rather the committee that was set up by EVA, experts, to come up with recommendations. They wanted the Ministry of Education to precisely formulate how and how much the teaching in the international dimension should take place. They wanted the Insatsniveau to be specific, that is the effort level, if you want to translate that directly. So how much to do about it and what to do about it, quality and quantity here had to be formulated with accuracy by the ministry. That was one recommendation. They also recommended for municipalities to pass goals for all the schools on teaching the international dimension. So teaching should in fact be regulated in terms of municipal political goals. They also wanted schools to come up with a mutual goal to make sure that all students cooperate in a continuous way, or in a continuous basis with the international dimension more than once in their school, in their years in school, right? Okay, yeah. They also wanted teachers to work more goal-oriented on strengthening the students' consciousness of what they can use their international knowledge and their international competencies for. Okay, yeah, quite obviously, isn't it? I mean, when we think about Lidicode and Scarino, this should all be old hat. This is also actually what people wanted also back in 2003, and we are still trying to get there, aren't we? Okay, yeah, yes. I'm not really going into the formal dimension. We could look into all the debates in the at parliamentary level, Danish Parliament, Folkeskolen, and so on and so forth, all dating back to the 90s, wanting the school to be more international and so on and so forth. That, however interesting it is, the history, we cannot really go into. I think it's enough history just to look at what people did in 2003 to give you a backing here, right? Okay. I think I'll move quickly to the recommendations at school levels. Okay, yeah. Yes, if time permits me to. Okay. Yes. And it's a central recommendation, namely if initiatives are really to have an impact, they have to take into account the whole school, that is management, teachers and students. In fact, there are municipalities that have worked with this in an exemplary way, and here the whole municipality works with an international dimension. Okay, right. I think that will be enough. Thanks a lot for